It started at my grandmother's big oval table, one of those ancient dark cedar things that held the weight of years and soup stains and scarring laughter, more solid than any of us. My mother had roasted chicken and there were chilies en nogada, those holiday plates she always insisted on making in September. My older brother, Jorge, was refilling his glass for the second time and everyone talked over each other, stories about jobs or the weather. It felt blisteringly ordinary, and for a time I believed the news I had would slip through, get lost in the tornado of other people's lives. I got the internship letter, I said, folding the envelope in my lap, with the film collective. In Veracruz. That was the first time the table went silent. It wasn't the awed kind I had dreamed of. It was the slow, cooling hush of something inappropriate, like I'd let a swear word slip in church. My mother looked at me, then at her plate, and my father, a man who had never watched a documentary in his life, sighed as if I'd just said I'd been offered a job painting clown faces on street dogs. What will you do there, Camilla? My Aunt Lydia asked, trying to sound supportive and failing. Bake the actors their cookies. They're not actors, Tia, it's a documentary team. We're going to Chronic. What is that exactly? My father broke in, following people around with a camera for what? You want to live off taking videos? I could feel eyes on me. Jorge smirked across the table, taking a bite of chicken, his fork clinking deliberately loud. You know, I saw one of those films the other day, what's it called? About old fishermen, my cousin Martin said, voice already thick with sarcasm. So interesting watching some guys untangle nets for an hour. Jorge barked out a laugh. Maybe you can film Lalo cleaning the garage next. Big ratings. They laughed the way only family can laugh, with the authority of shared rooms and old wounds. Sure, their ridicule is only tough love. My mother dabbed at the edge of her plate. Mija, do you know anyone who has a job doing this? Think about something more stable, teaching or journalism, at least this video thing. That's not for our people, Chica. My father, cement and dust still caked on his hands from his construction job, shook his head. People like us, we move dirt, we cook, we don't play around with cameras. The silence felt full of brick and mortar. I was 22 and still small in their eyes, stubbornly clutching a dream like it was a battered, beloved teddy bear. I folded my napkin until my fingers cramped. I'm going, I said, astonished by my own resolve. It wasn't bravery, it was exhaustion, a bone-deep tiredness at always being their cautionary tale. Jorge cocked an eyebrow. Don't come running back when you realize real life isn't a movie, Chiquita. I won't. I left before dessert. I remember my mother calling after me from the kitchen, her voice trailing into the soft clanging of dishes and the humid September night swallowing up the rest. Veracruz was sweat and salt, the house where the film collective kept us, a sun-baked, sprawling shack less than a block from the sea, smelled like instant coffee, wet towels and hope. Everyone there glowed with purposeful exhaustion, kids from Guadalajara, Querétaro, Jures, each with a camera slung across their chest like a wild badge of honor. We filmed mornings in markets, afternoons in rain, drank cheap mezcal at night in the sand. I felt for the first time sharp-edged and real, but I was not, I quickly learned, talented. I muffed focus, let the boom slip into frame, missed crucial moments while adjusting lenses. I filmed mistakes. God, I filmed so many, it strung at night to remember the laughter at home and realize they might be right. No one wanted to say it, but it was obvious in how other interns got tagged for the big segments, how my footage was quietly set aside for B-roll. We did a microdoc on street kids 1 month. I spent 2 days crouched beside a boy named Jacinto, following him through traffic as he juggled oranges at stoplights. Sweating, crouched in midday haze, I finally asked, "Don't you ever get tired of the cars not stopping?" He shrugged. "Maybe tomorrow one will. If I go home empty, they laugh anyway, so who cares?" He looked at me steady. "So do you keep filming or not?" I did. I missed his best trick, but I caught the moment when he pocketed a single coin from an old woman and smiled, not for her or the camera, but for himself. That became one of my first real shots worth keeping. Still, back in Mexico City, I was a daughter gone astray. I watched cousins marry teachers or engineers or architects. They drove to Sunday Mass in pressed shirts, asked each other about ridiculous sueños with a wink and smirk. My own calls home grew sparse and factual, full of weather and lies. When Jorge found a stable job at Pemex, my parents threw a barbecue. I scrolled through the blurry photos in Veracruz, longing and resentment tangled in my gut, but I stayed. The years blurred together, chopping up footage, meeting deadlines, eating stale sweet bread over silent mornings. Sometimes I'd see something, a woman at a bus stop holding a purple umbrella as rain pelted down, or an old couple dancing cumbias under a train overpass. I recorded them, hurrying to make each image true and whole in itself. Projects started coming, first from people who didn't know me as the fool from the family dinner, but as the one who'll climb a roof for that shot. NGOs, then small doc collectives, then a freelance gig with a crew headed to Oaxaca to film fruit vendors organizing their own unions. I ran cables all night, slept on dirt floors, my hands grew calloused, my eyes learned new languages, light, shadow, hope, resignation. It was another table, plastic, battered, in a documentary office trimmed with blue masking tape, where I watched the rough cut of what would one day change all of it. The project was Los Invisibles, a feature about street vendors forced off Zocalo by new city regulations. I spent months crouched in creaky trucks, recording hushed accounts in cramped apartments, translating their fight into something grander than statistics. I didn't leave my name in a corner, not at first. Success felt like a word too heavy for my tongue, but a producer from Spain saw it at a local festival and, in Spanish clipped and foreign but undeniably enthusiastic, said, "Your voice is here. Let's see more." That summer, we screened at Cinépolis Diana, and for the first time in years, I let myself imagine home. My phone buzzed after the awards show with a message from my brother, "Saw the thing on YouTube. Is that really you?" I waited, let it hang there, then finally, "If you ever want the family to see, you could bring it, but only if you buy the beers." 5 years to the day from that dinner, I invited everyone to come. Not to a film festival, not some glittering foreign place. I rented a small community hall in the barrio where my father grew up and arranged for a projector, folding chairs, a crate of Modelos. The urge to call it off sat under my skin like a bad sunburn. They came, all of them, my parents, Jorge, he brought his wife, a couple of cousins, even Aunt Lydia, who looked as if she'd been invited to a strange, off-brand confession. The hall smelled of disinfectant and fresh tacos. My mother sat in the third row, clutching her bag so tight her knuckles whitened. I queued up the short first, then the big one. The lights went down. On screen, the Mexico City street vendors appeared, their faces magnified beyond what I'd ever dared hope. I watched my family watch my work, the film's audio filling the rough walls, the low rumble of city chaos mingling with everyone's jaws tightening and loosening. In the dark, I studied their silhouettes. Jorge's arms crossed, my father's head cocked in distant suspicion, my mother's chin dipping and then occasionally lifting. Silence again, a different breed this time. The kind you get when people finally see something they didn't expect to believe. The film ended, the projector light faded, and for a moment no one moved. My father was the first to break. He cleared his throat as if recalibrating his understanding of the world. "You made this?" "Yes." He looked at Jorge, then at me, searching for seams, for some magic trick that could explain a daughter who'd never met a camera until she was 20, learning to tell the world's truth in a way he couldn't look away from. My mother dabbed at her eyes, quick, embarrassed. "Your name was in the credits," she said, voice small. "Director." "She, maman." She nodded, and something long coiled in her shoulders unfurled a little. Jorge didn't look at me. He looked at the screen where the credits had begun to fade and then finally grunted. "I guess you didn't need to film Lalo after all. This was different." "Gracias." Outside, long after the crowd began to trickle away, I stepped into the street. My father came with me, moving slow under the sodium glow of old street lamps. "You remember what I said after dinner, that it wasn't for our kind?" I nodded, hands jammed in my pockets, waiting for the punchline. He coughed. "I was wrong. You made them see, maybe I didn't want to see." He looked at me not as a child but as some kind of mystery, the same flesh growing in a direction he never considered possible. "You coming home, Mija?" I smiled. "Just for tonight." He let his hand rest gently on my shoulder, a final silent endorsement. We stood there, not needing to say any more, the city throbbing around us. For weeks after, things felt raw and unfamiliar, as if I'd been shifted sideways in my own life. My mother watched my interviews online, clicking the links I sent with careful precision. My brother started tagging me in memes about famous directors, and my father, always slow to admit pride, would sometimes nudge me at dinner and say, "Tell them about the film, Hija," as if it was a new talisman for the family story. But deeper than any praise or apology was the simple, overwhelming hush that lived in their faces when they watched my work. a silence born not of disbelief, but of respect. I learned that success is not walking away from where you started, but returning to it fully yourself, whole and a little battered. The family table, still stubborn and scarred, awaited me when I came home for dinner. The laughter was kinder. No one called my dream ridiculous, not aloud, and the silence that had once threatened to drown me became proof that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones witnessed by those who doubted you most. In the end, my return was not the prodigal's feast, nor a red carpet triumph. Just a room full of familiar faces, the long shadows of home softening at last, and the knowledge that I'd finally shown them who I really was.